Hello and welcome to LIC Present, a collaboration between Queens Public Library at Hunters Point, Queens Memory, LIC, also known as Long Island City Artists, and Culture Lab LIC, with support from Urban Archive. As an introduction, this innovation is the first of 3 exhibitions which will explore memory and the archival process with an emphasis on the artists of Long Island City. Originally, when we had started brainstorming about this project in 2019, we were anticipating an in-person exhibition about current conditions in LIC. However, due to COVID-19, it became evident that our original idea, both in execution and in focus, were no longer feasible. In terms of focus, daily we were hearing about how COVID-19 had been creating an unpredictable environment for many NYC artists, with many galleries and art spaces being forced to shut down and many artists leaving the city. However, even with these uncertain futures, we knew of many local artists in our branch's neighborhood who are continuing to create works that reflected both their introspective thoughts and their continued connections with others despite the pandemic. Thus, we shifted our project's focus to creating a community space where we could highlight many of these stories and creative works that are being made during these tumultuous times. As such, we also added an archival focus, as we thought it was imperative to archive these works and these stories in order to preserve both the emotional and artistic works that are reflective of our times in the Long Island City community today. Overall, due to these conditions, our goals for the project transformed into virtually bringing an art experience to our community where they could join in as both participant and as viewer, and to also raise awareness on archiving our COVID-19 experiences. As such, in complying with stay-at-home orders, LIC Present has been worked on completely remote and has required the use of various software and programs to make the project a success. As you can see, the virtual exhibition is hosted on LIC's website, and all archive material, which we're still processing, can be found on Urban Archive and Aviary. For interviews, we recorded using StreamYard and did edits via Windows Video Editor and Audacity. All submissions came through LIC's FormStack, which was then imported into an Airtable for preservation purposes. We created VR studio tour visits as well of 3 artists who were willing to participate via the Google Tour Creator. And as such, because I have our exhibition website up, I think this is a great time for us to start exploring the website together. And so when you enter the website, you're going to notice that when you scroll down, the first thing you're going to see is our LIC Present Artists Navigating 2020. Now, this portion consisted originally of an open call that we had in the summer, where we asked local artists to submit their works that they had been creating during COVID-19 and personal anecdotes of what each of those pieces meant to them during this pandemic. And so to enter our studio, just to give you a glimpse of what is there, you're going to see that we were able to feature many artists, and each artist, many of them had also included these amazing stories that went with their works. And so you can check this out and see many of the submissions that we had received. The submissions range from the emotional, the sad, to the happy and hopeful. And so we find that it's a very great representation of just how many feelings and emotions are happening during this time. And also a great thank you to the artists who were willing to share their pieces with us and to share their stories with us. So for our next part, we have the LIC Artist 3D Virtual Studio Visits. And so these studio visits, they started out as 3 artists we had contacted because originally Queens Memory, which is a community archiving and oral history project, had been doing interviews of Long Island City artists back in 2018 and 2019. And so with the major changes that have happened in 2020, we thought it imperative that we revisit some of them to see how their life has changed and how their perspectives have shifted since their last interview. And as such, we started with 3 artists, specifically Karen Fitzgerald, Orestes Gonzalez, and Kaiser Kamal. And we interviewed them to see what they're experiencing and their COVID-19 personal experiences during this time. One thing that was really great about this aspect of the project was that these three artists graciously allowed us to virtually enter their studios and create an exhibition tour dedicated to their creative spaces that highlighted both their current and their past works. So to give you a quick look into what that looks like. So we used it on Google Tour Creator. As you can see, this is our opening slide that explores just what this platform is and how to navigate it. But we're going to go straight into the studios. Now, I'm not going to play it today, but each of the studios have an audio component consisting of an excerpt from the interview that we conducted this past summer of 2020 with the artists. Many of the anecdotes and excerpts are related to COVID-19 and their experiences with being an artist during this time. One great thing about this platform was that, and the artists who participated, was that they willingly and graciously sent us images, 360-degree images of their studios, and we were able to input them into this platform so that people can virtually enter these studios. Another great thing is that they also submitted past and current works, so you can click on those markers and then you can see a bigger representation of the art piece as well as parts of the artist statement. So this one is for Karen Fitzgerald, for instance. When we click the marker, La Bella Luna popped up, and then we have some parts of the artist statement there. Second, we have Orestes Gonzalez, who's a photographer, and as you can see, you can navigate his studio. I'm going to show you Rosetta Benz. So this was a photograph he had done. Orestes has done a lot of work on taking images of people in their art studios. So it was interesting to recreate his studio in our virtual setting. So as you can see with Rosetta, you can see the image as well as the artist statement. And our last artist was Kaiser Kamal, and what he did was he submitted lots of pieces. And so when you click on them, once again, a bigger image of their work pops up, and then you can scroll down and see their artist statement about the piece. Once again, there is an audio component containing excerpts from the 2020 interviews with these three artists. However, for today's purposes and introduction to LIC Present, I will not be showing that today, but please feel free to check out the website and to listen to those excerpts when you're exploring these studios. And so going back to our main website, so what happened was great. What was great is that, so this exhibition, because it is ongoing, we are hoping to continue to add more artists to this specific segment of creating these artist interviews of 2020, as well as virtual studio visits. If you would like to hear the full interviews with these artists, you are more than welcome to check them out on Aviary, where they are archived and are digitally available on that website. So going back up, another component that we had in the artist studio was that we also held a live stream Facebook event where we were able to have those three artists in a conversation moderated by Edjo Wheeler, who is the Executive Director of Culture Lab LIC, to talk about their creative spaces, how they found their creative spaces in studios, and kind of how the pandemic has affected their ability to create and their studios during this time. So our next segment is the virtual time capsule, which is, we are still accepting open calls for that. And so for this particular portion, we are aiming to reach out to local community members from Long Island City to submit objects that represent their experiences during 2020. So that is the deadline for that is in December, and we are hoping to open that in January. And so the last part is that, as I mentioned, the interviews are being archived on Aviary, and then the assets that were submitted via the Artist Navigating 2020, they are archived on Urban Archive. Now, just to show you a quick glimpse of what we did on Urban Archive. So for all the material we received from Artist Navigating 2020, we split them into two parts. We split them into connecting communities and introspection. And so what's great is that so Urban Archive has agreed to digitally archive all of this material. And we, for each part of these stories, we have the explanation of what it is, but then also all the pieces with all the statements of what they are, descriptions, mediums, and titles. What's great about this is that in the future, when people are exploring Urban Archive, when they click this address, the 525 46th Avenue, that is the Plaxall Gallery, where LIC artists and Culture Lab LIC have done tons and tons of work. As I mentioned, Joe Wheeler, who's the executive director of Culture Lab LIC, also helps run the Plaxall Gallery as well. And so in the future, people will be able to see a historical record of art that was being created during COVID-19 in Long Island City when they click this address. And so if you want to see all of the art pieces we have online, these are the ones we have. And so that concludes my introduction of our LIC Present exhibition. Thank you so much for joining me today in exploring our website and listening to our story of how we were able to bring this exhibition that was originally intended for in-person, bringing it into a virtual space and being able to create a community space where members of our community can come in and join in as both participant and as a viewer. And so thank you so much, and hope you get to visit the website. The website is licartists.org/lic-present. Thank you so much.